Welcome. Happy Monday. I'm so glad you're all here. You are taking a slice out of your life to start thinking about goal setting during this time that we're all in quarantine. And if you're anything like me, you may have started to feel a little bit stir crazy, perhaps a little bit disempowered, maybe a little bit hopeless, and maybe you have a little bit of extra time on your hands. And so that's why I wanted to share this time together this evening. Um, I probably know most of you either through social media or because I invited you personally. But if I haven't met you, hello, my name is Cecily Breeding. I want to start out by sharing a little background for what we're going to be doing together and also the why behind it. If you've known me before today, you probably know that goal setting is a very important practice to me. I'm a total goal setting fanatic. It's something that goal setting is something that changed my life in my early 20s. And it's not an exaggeration for me to say that everything I'm proud of, from starting my own business to keeping a healthy marriage, to maintaining a level of fitness, to paying off giant student loan debts early after college and staying debt free, all of those things came about as a result of setting goals. And so I teach this practice. I teach a goal setting course to a wide variety of people, from corporate settings to individual coaching. I lead this for a lot of college students. Some of you have probably gone through a version of this course with me before. And so I just want to, I'll start by saying that that's not what we're doing this evening. What we're doing this evening is a much shortened, much more quarantine specific version of a much longer 2-hour course. And so I may talk a little bit about that later, but don't worry, I'm not going to hold on to you for the next 2 hours. We'll probably be done in under an hour this evening. And so it's a shortened version of what I'm going to lead you through this evening. So it's very condensed. And I'm doing this because I think we can all agree that we're in a very strange time. And I know I've noticed this in myself that I have kind of a feeling of powerlessness about both like my present choices and freedoms, and also thinking about an uncertain future. And so I know that some of you can probably relate. And so for some of us, our health might be in jeopardy because the reality is there's a virus going around and there's an amount of worry associated with that. For some of us, our business or our income might be in jeopardy because consumer habits have changed and businesses have had to close. For some of us, our freedom might be in jeopardy because events have been canceled, businesses have closed, my gym has closed, even like here in Southern California, the parks and open spaces are closed. And then for some of us, the peace of our home is in jeopardy. Right now, we might be living with too many people in too small of a space for too many hours. And so I think we can all relate that we're probably feeling stress in at least one of those areas. And so that's really why I wanted to share this with you this evening, is that it's important to, when we're feeling disempowered, when we're feeling like things we hold dear are in jeopardy, it's important to take a good hard look at what we need, what we want, and what is within our control during this time. And so whether this whole quarantine lasts a few days or if it drags on for several months, I truly believe that it is within our power to come out of this experience becoming stronger and wiser, and perhaps maybe even a little bit proud of things that we've accomplished during our time in quarantine. And so I'm going to share some tools with you that will help you live intentionally in the coming days and weeks. So like I said, this is going to be a much shorter version of the course that I teach. And so based on how this evening goes, I might offer the longer course in the coming weeks over Zoom. This is my first time trying a goal setting group training over Zoom. And so I would actually crave your feedback. If any of you notice something that like works or doesn't work as far as your experience or the technology, please don't hesitate to send me that. Either you could type it in the chat or you could email me offline. I would love to hear that from you. So my goal is to wrap this up in 40 or 45 minutes. So we'll be out of here by 6:20, 6:30 at the latest. Okay, so I want you to take a look at your worksheets that I had you print out. These are the ones that have the pug wrapped up in a blanket. So there's 4 pages, 4 worksheets that we're going to move through together. So I want you to turn to page 1. Page 1, it says the circle on it. I filled mine out last night just as a little practice, but I want you to take a look at your workbook. And so this first page here is called, it's kind of a brainstorming activity. So on this page, I want you to think specifically about your time in quarantine. So like I said, this activity that we're sharing tonight is a much shorter version. And so I want you to think about the here and now. So our immediate time here in quarantine. And so as you look at this circle, I want you to write down things that you want in your life, right? So words or phrases that describe what you want out of this time in quarantine. And these can be abstract things like I've got laughter, health, or they could be more concrete things like I wrote go for hikes, sad. I wrote stay healthy. I wrote learn new skills, right? And so they can be a little more abstract or more concrete. There's no wrong way to do it. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. If you have any questions about that, feel free to either unmute yourself or you can type questions directly to me privately if you'd prefer to do that. Okay, so 2 minutes. Just focus on inside the circle right now. Here we go. Okay, now I'm gonna have us move outside the circle. So the rules are the same, but just flip-flopped. So when you think about the outside of the circle, I want you to think about things you don't want in your life during your time in quarantine. Go ahead and write some things. For example, things that I wrote are that I don't want to get sick. I don't want to constantly be on social media, and I don't want to have anxiety. All right, so go ahead and write some things outside your circle. 2 minutes.
Fran, I'm listening to Cecily's thing.
Okay, so now that you've filled in some things inside your circle and outside your circle, I would love to hear from you. So you can feel free to either unmute yourself and share, and hopefully we can navigate listening to one another, or if you want to just type in the chat, what are some things that you wrote inside your circle? You can go ahead and just shout them out.
Fresh air.
To call a person every day.
Call someone every day. I love that. That's great. What else?
Keep up with my schoolwork.
Keep up with schoolwork. I'm seeing in the chat, I'm seeing intuitive movement. That's awesome. What else?
Cecily, as a mom, I want love in our home.
So good. Amen. Thank you. What else?
A little more tactical, but to capitalize financially on an interesting market in an interesting moment, to have the resources and the wisdom to do that effectively.
Totally. I feel that. I'm seeing over here in the chat to finish grad school apps and to stay connected with friends and family. That's awesome. That's making great use of your time. Michelle said health, nature, fitness, creativity, learn new skills. Me too. I want to do that. And love. Olivia wants to grow in faith. And Michelle said peace and patience. So good. Okay, awesome. You get it. Let's move outside the circle. What are some things that you wrote outside the circle? And same thing, that worked well to have people either writing in the chat or just talking right out to me. What are some things you wrote outside your circle?
Be complacent with laziness. It's
Totally.
easy to start loafing around during this time.
Same. What else?
Along the same lines, but I wrote, I don't want to come out of this being less productive than I was going in.
Mm-hmm. Grace wrote, she doesn't want to sleep in. I feel that. Jen wrote, to be separated from family if they are sick. Also, toilet paper insecurity. I wrote that too. That's a real thing.
I'll become depressed and go outside the circle.
I put long periods of inaction or purposelessness. So not like intentional resting, but just like inaction.
Right. Yeah. Long periods of inaction and purposelessness. Michelle wrote illness, loneliness, worry, anxiety, to gain weight, complacency. And we have two Michelles on this call. So another Michelle wrote anxiety. Totally. Awesome. Thanks for that. You get it. Go ahead and remute yourselves. I'm not getting any like feedback or ringing, but just in case there's any background noise, that just kind of helps all of us. So go ahead and remute yourselves. We're going to move on. I want you to move on to the next page. So turn the page to the circle. It says the circle 2.0. All right. And so this is going to look kind of familiar, and that's because it is. It is basically the same worksheet, but with different rules this time. And so this worksheet is structured the same way, but instead of identifying what you want inside the circle and what you don't want, you're going to use this worksheet to identify what is within your control and what is not within your control. So again, for this time, I want you to start inside the circle again. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write some things inside the circle, things that are within your control. And if you're having any struggle with this, I'll share a couple things that I wrote to just kind of get you primed. I wrote my personal spending. That's within my control right now. The amount that I online shop and online purchase, the amount of time I spend on social media, my bedtime and my wake up time. One of you wrote about not wanting to sleep in, so you can write about that too. Your bedtime and your wake up time, those are within your control. The amount of water I drink, my nutrition. I wrote how frequently I shower. That is within my control, and that has an impact on how I feel. So go ahead and write some things inside your circle. 2 minutes. All right, even though you may still be writing, but I want you to move outside the circle now. So just like the other circle, it's same but opposite rules. I want you to write things that are outside your control right now. And the truth is, it probably feels like there's a lot that's outside your control right now. So for me, I wrote retail stores being open. I wrote the availability of toilet paper. I've got weather. Some of you know that I'm a freelance photographer, and so the number of email inquiries and bookings I receive is not within my control. And frankly, right now it's 0. So write some things outside the circle that are outside of your control right now. 2 minutes. Okay, I would love to hear from you. Let's start with inside the circle again. What are some things that you feel are within your control right now? You can respond through your voice or through your chat function. Melody wrote my response. So true. My thoughts, how much I'm on social media. That's awesome. I wrote my attitude.
The amount of news I'm consuming.
Amen. Amount
And
of
I
news.
wrote, like, the type of news that I listen to. So similar to what you just said.
Totally. Type of news. Over here in the chat, we've got adherence to routines. So true. How I react to others in my living space. Amen. Activity level, daily schedule. Happiness, how much I sleep, my daily workout, work, my attitude, movement, social media use, productivity, my body, my time, who I reach out to, technology, whether or not to focus on media. This is a big one. My nutrition, hygiene, what I eat and drink, and self-care. Fantastic. Oh, I'm getting more. This is fantastic. You guys are doing great. Calling or texting my family. If I journal every day, how much water I drink, how much I spend, save, ability to look at different perspectives, shaving my legs. Yes, Jordan and Hay. That is awesome. So good. That is within your control. All right, now I want to hear some things that are outside my control. Outside your control. Let's hear it. How I act toward others. I think that was within. Yes, Sharissa, how long you're displaced from your home. Sharissa is here in the United States after being displaced from her home in Japan. So feeling like a fish out of water right now, I bet. The spread of the virus, schools reopening. Yep.
I've got one for you, Cecily.
Yeah,
Friends and families' choices.
totally.
I know we all have families, and perhaps locally or scattered across the states and globe. So it's everyone's kind of under different guidelines, but also adapting their lives to fit or not fit within the parameters. And so we all have fears and hopes and desires of wanting them to be well and do well. And, we're all riding a roller coaster. So
For sure. Thanks, Claire. So good.
other people's choices.
Man. Oh, I'm over here in the chat. We've got my family's actions. If schools are open, how often the baby wakes up at night. Boyfriend has to be at work. Yep, that's outside your control, Sheridan. Shipping speeds. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I ordered something today that predicted it would be here on April 25th. I was like, why didn't I even order it? I'll just wait until this is over. Freedom to travel, quarantine rules, COVID-19 Olympics being canceled, other people's actions, how many people will be affected by this virus. I mean, it's so true. I'm seeing this in the chat. It just keeps coming through. It's like a mountain of stuff that is outside of our control. Amen. That is so true. Okay. We're going to move on from the circle. So I want you to turn the page to the next one. this is the one that says, it says know your needs at the top. So many of you have probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a pretty well-known psychological model. It's a 5-tier model that basically explains how humans group their needs and then rank them, with the most essential being at the bottom. And so if you look at this, I printed mine in black and white, but if you look at this pyramid here, it's organized with the most essential needs being here at the bottom. And then as we move up this pyramid, the least essential are here at the top. And so I'm just going to briefly read them out loud to you, starting from the bottom. So physiological needs, beginning with air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and the need to reproduce. Moving up from that base level need, we've got safety. So that's personal security, employment, resources, health, and property. Moving up from that, we've got love and belonging. So friendship, intimacy, family, a sense of connection. Moving up from there is esteem. So that's when we need respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. And then right up here at the top is self-actualization. So that's when we become the most we can be. And the idea behind the hierarchy of needs is that, generally speaking, we take care of ourselves and we meet our needs from the bottom up. So we devote the most energy and resources to taking care of our needs at the bottom. And then once those are maybe not necessarily addressed, but once they're not necessarily like met, but once they're more or less addressed, we move up from there. And the reverse is also true, that in times of crisis, we tend to sacrifice our needs from the top down. So from least essential to most essential. So what I want you to do is, you're going to have a chance now to create basically your own customized hierarchy of needs here. So take a look at the bottom half of this worksheet. Mine's filled in, but you have a bunch of spaces down here. So what I want you to do is, we're going to address this in 2 parts. So first, I want you to just write in each of the sections a couple basic descriptors of what it might look like for your needs to be met right now at each of those 5 levels. And so, for example, in my bottom section, I wrote food for the week in the refrigerator, 8 hours of sleep per night. I'm trying to sleep more because I want to stay healthy. Clean clothes, plenty of clean water, sunshine and fresh air. And I would also probably add toilet paper down there on the bottom. So now it's your turn. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, because this might take a little longer. I want you to write 1 or 2 things, if you can, on each level. And so you're customizing it to yourself. And so you've got this cheat sheet up here at the top if you've forgotten what the elements of these needs are, but add some detail to it. Describe what your life might look like if each of these needs were met at present. A couple minutes here.
Are we going to check in line by line, or you want us to knock out all 5 here in one shot?
Thanks
Sorry.
for asking that, Scott. Yes, all 5 in this shot. Try to get 1 or 2 in each section. All 5 right here. Okay, so we're not going to check in on getting feedback from you on each of these levels because that would be pretty time consuming. But what I want you to do now is I want you to look at what you wrote. And the next step here is for you to either place an asterisk, or you can circle it, or you can use a different color pen to identify items that might be lacking in this time. All right. And so these are things, to the degree that it is within your control, that you will direct some special attention to, some extra TLC to, when you start to write some goals and daily habits on the next page. So just take a quick pass through. And by the way, I've noticed that a number of you are sitting at a table with presumably a loved one. And so maybe this is your chance to share out loud with the person who's near you. What are some things that, first of all, that you wrote in your hierarchy of needs, and also some things that maybe feel like they're not being fully realized right now? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling fully actualized right now, right? There's definitely some things that I'm feeling some gaps in. So that's a quick conversation that you can have with the person next to you.
Cecily, this is Jen. Could you just take a moment? I can get up to love and belonging in this time, but esteem and self-actualization, I'm having a hard time like conceptualizing like in this quarantine time. Could you help give an idea?
That's a good question. So esteem would probably have more to do with your job, right? And so like your position, so that has to do, it talks about status, it talks about recognition. So for me, for esteem, I'm very, very work oriented. And so the things that I put in here for esteem are having projects to work on, goals to set, and having an income, because quite frankly, I'm not working right now. And so I'm looking at probably taking a 0 month next month. And so that's something that is lacking for me right now. And then when it comes to self-actualization, that's growth. I wrote growth, reading, dreaming, planning, meditation, spirituality, things like that. Does that start to answer your question?
Thanks.
I unmuted myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn to the last page here. This is great. We're making great time. So turn to the last page. So this is where you're going to set some daily habits and some goals. And this is based on what you've written in the last 3 exercises. And so one of the fun things about that I talk about in my goal setting course, in the longer course, is that by the time you get to the goal setting page, you've already done the work that will show up on your goal setting page. And so you don't need to feel intimidated by this blank page that says it's time to set goals, because now is the time when you can really start to look back at the worksheets that the things you've already written, the brainstorming that you've already done, so that you can write some things on the goals page. So I want you to take a look at this, and I customized this page specifically to this time in quarantine for a couple reasons. One, because we're talking about a finite timeline, right? And I don't know if this is going to be a few days or a few more weeks, but I don't want you to be thinking about 10-year goals right now. I don't even really want you to be thinking about 1-year goals. I want you to be, for the most part, I want your goals to live in the next week, 2 weeks, or at the longest timeline over the next month. Okay, so just a quick tour of this page. We've got daily habits here on the left. And then down here, a box that says project, and we'll talk about that. And then this section over here is for your goals. Okay, so let's start on the left with daily habits. So I wrote a little bit in here in this box, but like the title says, I want you to identify some things that you will do every single day, no skips. So this is not a Monday through Friday thing. This isn't a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's not even things I want to do every day. I want you to only write things on this list that you will literally do without fail every single day. And the reason I think it's important to identify daily habits right now is because, as we have discussed already, there are many, many things outside of our control. And mountains of research in the field of psychology tell us that having routines, having things that you can identify as within your control, are a major step toward maintaining your mental and emotional wellness during times of uncertainty. So everything feels topsy-turvy right now. Identifying and selecting some daily habits will help you start to create that routine that then maybe leads toward goals. So what I want you to do is on this daily habits section here, I've got 6 lines here. And so I want you to only write something that you will do without fail every day. And Zara asked a good question. Are these habits that we already do or habits that you would like to do? It can be both. It can be either one. And so you don't have to only write things that you've done every single day for the last 6 days, but maybe these can be something that you can commit to doing every single day for the rest of April, right? And so for me, what I wrote in bed by 10 p.m. I wrote brush my teeth. I wrote take vitamin C, and I wrote go through highs and lows with Dusty, right? And so the idea behind writing a daily habit is that I want you to set the bar very low, all right? So these are things that you can do without fail. Daily habits. So go ahead and take a minute to write some daily habits here. All right, and then next I want you to move over to the right-hand side, the right-hand section that has a bunch of lines on it on the right-hand side. And so this is where you're gonna write some goals. All right, so a quick conversation about goals, and I'm not gonna belabor this too much, is that goals that are meaningful and motivating are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to what you value most. They're time-oriented, written, approach, and present. Okay, and I get into some of those, I get into all those terms way more in the full-length version of the course, but this evening I really want to focus on 2 factors that I think are really important right now. Is 1, your goals should be measurable, meaning you know when they're done, right? And so it should be specific enough that you know when it's complete. And the second is that I want your goals to be time-oriented, meaning there's some sort of time domain. Right, and so it might be by a particular date that you finish something, or it might be by the end of April, or it might be by Saturday, but I want you to identify a date by when you complete this particular goal. And just to remind you, I want you to set these for the immediate future, okay? So these aren't your for the next year, they're not your 5-year goals. And then also just to recap, if you're feeling stumped on your goals, look back at your circles. Look back at what is within your control. Look back at what you need during this time. Look back at what you want most during this time. Those things will probably lead you in the direction of setting some goals, but make sure they're measurable and make sure they're time oriented. And you don't need to fill out like 8 goals right now. I'm going to challenge you to write 2 goals right now, and then you can finish this up after our call is complete. So write 2 goals right now, and then I'll check back in with you and maybe we can share some. I want to real quickly talk about the project box, just so that when we start sharing, I'm not going to be doing a lot of starting and stopping. The project box, which is in the bottom left corner down here, chances are you might have a goal for your time in quarantine that really deserves to be broken down into a number of smaller steps. I'll use, for example, one of my goals, which is to clean out and organize the garage. Okay, that's a pretty daunting task, right? It's not something that I can just, like, if I were to put it on my to-do list, I wouldn't really know where to start. I probably would delay on it and procrastinate on it. And to be honest, that's why we wind up procrastinating on a lot of our goals, is because we set too high of an expectation and we write too large of a project on our to-do list. And so, for using the example of cleaning out and organizing the garage, I might write that in this top line here, and then I'm going to break it down into smaller action items. And so the first step might be to go through the adventure closet and throw away or donate all the broken or mismatched gear. Okay, check, that one's done. And then the next task might be to go through all the water and surfing gear and get rid of wetsuits that are broken, get rid of surfboards that don't have leashes on them, stuff like that. And then the next thing might be to spray down and wipe down all the shelves. And then the next thing might be to sweep the garage. And so you get it. It's a project is one of your goals that might bear some breaking down into smaller pieces, more manageable pieces. And so that's what you can do with that bottom left box. If you're thinking like, I don't really have any projects that I want to work on, you can skip that part. Okay, I would love to hear from some of you. You can choose what you want to share. If you are really stoked about a couple of the daily habits that you wrote down, then I would love to hear some of your daily habits. Or if you're particularly stoked about some of the goals that you wrote down, I would love to hear some of your goals. But I'd just love to hear from some of you. What did you write down? What are you going to be working on for the next month? Submit patent by Saturday, April 4th. Nice, Sharissa. I'm curious what your patent is. We'll have to talk about that. What else?
Learn how my body reacts to confinement.
You will probably learn that. Nice, thank you.
So my project is trying to go through all the home videos from over the years and do like annual little video montages.
That's a great project. That's fun. I love that. Oh, I'm seeing some come through the chat. Michelle is going to finish reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Oh, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by Sunday, April 5th. Yes, I love that. Erin's going to finish a book for fun by April 11th. Fantastic. Jen is going to rehang our pictures in new places by Saturday, April 4th. Jen, I'm in the same boat. I've been hanging up so many things on my walls. My neighbors probably think all I do is walk around my house with a hammer. What else?
We're gonna buy a wood chipper and completely clear a back hill by April 30th.
Yeah, you are. That's awesome. What else?
So I graduated from Pepperdine a year ago, and long story short, just got back from South Korea a couple weeks ago, and for a while during this transition, I've just had this overlaying like sense that I need to get my life together, organize my life. And so as I'm reflecting, I realized that pretty much just means like digitally clearing things up, like going through my Google Drive, my emails, like getting a planner. And it's very basic things, but it can feel, if you don't break it down, like, oh my gosh, my life is out of order. But really there are like a lot of tangible steps you can take to start getting it in order.
So true. So true. You know, I'm a big fan of my Dropbox account. I know like there's so many different cloud filing sources. You can do Google Drive, but I've been a Dropbox fan for years and years. I think I pay like $120 a year for like 2 terabytes of storage, which as a photographer, that is not all I need, but it's like all I need for the last couple of years. And then I'm constantly cleaning old stuff off. So that's awesome. Cool. Getting yourself digitally organized. Zara's going to do yoga twice a week, every week of April. I love it. You know, Zara, I'm teaching yoga online on Wednesdays at 5:30 and Fridays at noon. Love to have you. Zoom yoga. You can actually do it right there. What else?
I put a daily habit of not going to bed with dirty dishes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really good. Fantastic.
I'm going to try to organize my closet because it's always constantly messy and it's never clean for me.
Yes, way to go. You're going to Marie Kondo that closet. Cool. Okay. That pretty much brings us up to the end. So first, I just want to thank you all so much for sharing part of your evening with me. This is a super important conversation. I truly think that this is how you can make the best of your time in quarantine. And I hope that the result of this is that you are feeling a little bit more positive, a little bit more empowered, and a little bit more clear about what it is that you want and what you need and what is within your control